The sound didn't belong in winter. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. And it wasn't human, at least not anymore. I heard it while clearing snow from my driveway at 3:17 a.m., the shovel scraping ice in a rhythm that felt too loud in the dead silence. The world was white and still, frozen under a moon that looked sickly pale, like it had watched too much and learned nothing. Then the sound came again. A low, dragging breath. It echoed from the tree line behind my house. Slow, deliberate, as if something massive was pulling itself forward inch by inch. I stopped moving. My breath fogged the air, loud and fast. Suddenly the only proof I was alive. "Hello," I called, hating myself the moment the word left my mouth. The sound stopped. Silence pressed down hard, thick enough to hurt my ears. Then footprints. Fresh ones. They appeared one by one in the untouched snow, forming a line that came straight out of the trees. Each step was deep, heavy, too far apart to be human. The footprints didn't rush. They waited, as if whatever made them knew I was watching. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. One message. "Don't let it see your face." I looked up. Something tall moved between the trees. And winter suddenly felt very, very crowded. Winter didn't arrive in Blackridge the way it did in other places. It didn't drift in softly or announce itself with gentle snowfall. It came like a decision already made. Sudden, absolute, and impossible to argue with. One day the roads were damp and gray, and the next they were buried beneath ice so thick it swallowed sound. Tires stopped passing. Voices disappeared. Even the wind seemed to move more carefully, as if it knew this place didn't like to be disturbed. I arrived 3 days after the first heavy storm. The town sign was half covered in snow, the name Blackridge barely visible beneath frost. Someone had scratched a line through the final letters years ago, leaving it to read Blackrid, as if the rest had been taken. I didn't laugh. I didn't comment. I just kept driving. The house waited at the edge of town, pressed up against the forest like it was trying to hide. Uncle Jonah had lived there alone for decades, long before the town began shrinking every winter. When he vanished, no one went looking for long. In Blackridge, disappearance wasn't shocking, it was seasonal. The key turned stiffly in the lock. Cold air spilled out as I opened the door, sharp and stale, carrying the smell of old wood, smoke, and something faintly rotten beneath it all. The house hadn't been disturbed. Dust lay untouched. A pair of boots stood by the door, snow still crusted along the edges, as if Jonah had just stepped out and never come back. I stood there too long listening. Silence in winter is different. It isn't empty. It's watchful. I shut the door and locked it, though I wasn't sure what I was locking out. The first night passed with uneasy sleep. The house groaned as temperatures dropped, boards snapping softly like knuckles cracking in the dark. I told myself it was normal. Old houses always complained. Forests always whispered. Winter always made people imagine things. By the second night, imagination stopped being enough. I noticed small details, things too subtle to accuse, too wrong to ignore. The coat on the hook by the door hung differently than I remembered. The kitchen chair faced the wall instead of the table. Snow gathered beneath the back door inside the house, though I was certain it had been sealed. I cleaned. I organized. I blamed fatigue. On the third morning, I found the marks. They were carved into the wood of the back door, 3 long lines running vertically from shoulder height to the handle. The cuts were deep and precise, not jagged like claws. Whoever, or whatever, had made them hadn't rushed. It had taken its time. I stepped back, heart thudding, and for a moment I thought I heard breathing behind me. Slow. Controlled. Too close. But the room was empty. I asked around town later that day, though around wasn't much. Blackridge in winter consisted of closed doors and half-lit windows. Mrs. Holloway lived closest. She answered after my third knock, peering out through the crack like the cold might rush in if she opened it too far. "Did you hear anything last night?" I asked. Her eyes flicked past me, toward the tree line. "You shouldn't be outside alone. I just want to know if..." "Winter carries voices," she said, cutting me off. Her hands shook as she pulled her coat tighter. And sometimes, they aren't theirs anymore. The door closed gently but firmly. That night, the power went out without warning. No flicker. No struggle. 1 second the lights were on, the next the house dropped into darkness so complete it felt deliberate. I stood still, breath fogging, waiting for the familiar hum of electricity to return. It didn't. Instead, the radio on the kitchen counter clicked. Static hissed through the room, loud enough to feel like pressure in my skull. I hadn't plugged it in. I was certain of that. A voice pushed through the noise, thin, warped, strained like it was speaking through frozen lungs. Don't answer it. The signal broke apart. Something moved upstairs. Slow footsteps crossed the floor above me. Each step landed heavy, measured, as if whoever walked knew exactly how much sound they were making. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I told myself it was the house settling, wood responding to cold. The steps stopped directly over my head. Then came a whisper. Not loud, not threatening, just close. It said my name. I backed away, hand shaking as it found the wall. My mind raced for logic, excuses, anything solid to hold onto. Old buildings echo. Radios malfunction. Stress creates hallucinations. But fear doesn't listen to reason. The whisper came again, softer this time, almost patient. Let me in. That was when I understood something important. Something Jonah must have known long before he disappeared. Winter in Blackridge wasn't empty. And whatever lived here had been waiting for me to notice. After the whisper, sleep became impossible. I lay on Jonah's old bed fully dressed, lights on, listening to the house breathe. That was the only way to describe it. Not creaking, not settling, but breathing. Long pauses followed by slow exhales that moved through the walls and floors, as if the structure itself had lungs buried deep in frozen timber. When morning finally came, it arrived without relief. The sky was the color of dirty snow, heavy and low. The forest behind the house looked closer than it had the day before. Trees leaned inward, branches bent under ice, pointing at the house like crooked fingers. I told myself it was an illusion caused by snowfall and shadow. I told myself many things that day. None of them helped. I searched Jonah's house properly then, not as a guest but as someone looking for proof. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Proof that the whisper had come from somewhere real. That was when I found the journal. It was hidden beneath a loose floorboard in the study, wrapped in oilcloth and duct tape like something that didn't want to be found, or didn't want what it contained to escape. Jonah's handwriting filled the pages, neat at first, then increasingly frantic as the dates moved deeper into winter months. It's closer this year. The snow holds memory. Faces matter. Don't let it learn yours. My hands shook as I turned the pages. Jonah wrote about the walker the way someone writes about bad weather. Inevitable, cyclical, beyond blame. It wasn't summoned. It wasn't cursed into existence. It arrived, the way winter always had, stepping out of the coldest weeks like something seasonal and patient. According to him, the walker didn't hunt. It replaced. People who vanished were not torn apart. They were taken apart slowly, voice by voice, gesture by gesture. The walker learned how to be them well enough to call others closer. Well enough to be mistaken in the dark. By the time I reached the final entry, the writing had collapsed into uneven slashes. It's inside the house now. Not all at once. Just pieces. I hear myself talking when I don't speak. That night I heard it too. It began with the radio again. Static slid into words. Words into voices I recognized from town. Mrs. Holloway. Old Rourke. A woman crying softly, repeating a name I didn't know. I unplugged the radio. The voices continued. They came from the vents. The walls. The floor beneath my feet. Always quiet. Always close. Like someone speaking just behind your shoulder, certain you'd turn around eventually. I went to town the next day despite the cold. Old Man Rourke still lived near the closed mountain lodge, the last building on the road that didn't fully disappear beneath snowdrifts. He answered the door with a shotgun in his hands and fear in his eyes that deepened when he saw me. "You're Jonas," he said. Not a question. "He wrote about you," I replied. Rourke's jaw tightened. He stepped aside without another word. The lodge smelled of smoke and age. Photographs lined the walls. Groups of people standing in front of snowbanks, smiling stiffly, eyes tired. Many of the faces had been scratched out. "It doesn't like being remembered wrong," Rourke said when he noticed me staring. "What is it?" I asked. He set the shotgun down slowly. "A walker. A listener. A thing that learned us too well." "Why winter?" Rourke exhaled. "Because cold slows everything. Makes time stretch. Gives it room." He told me the first stories were old, older than Blackridge. Settlers wrote about something tall moving through storms, calling people by name, standing just outside lantern light. They learned early not to answer. "But people forget," he said. "Every generation does." That was when the whisper came from the corner of the room. "Rourke." Both of us froze. The voice was perfect. Rourke didn't turn. His face drained of color. "It's not real," he muttered, more to himself than to me. The whisper repeated his name, softer this time. "Closer." Rourke raised the shotgun and fired. The blast echoed, tearing through wood and dust. Silence followed. No body. No blood. Just splintered boards and the faint smell of frost where the voice had been. "It doesn't need shape," Rourke said hoarsely. "Just access." That night, paranoia settled in fully. I locked doors that were already locked. I covered mirrors. I avoided looking directly at windows after dark. Still, things changed when I wasn't watching. Chairs moved. Footprints appeared inside the house. My reflection lagged half a second behind my movements. Once, while washing my face, I heard my own voice behind me say, "Don't turn around." I didn't. Days blurred. Snow fell constantly, erasing paths, burying markers. The town grew quieter. Houses darkened one by one. People stopped answering doors. The walker was collecting. Flashbacks began to intrude. Not mine, but Jonah's. I saw him standing in the kitchen, older, thinner, whispering into his hands like prayer. I saw him following footprints into the forest, face tight with recognition and dread. Sometimes I felt his panic like it was my own. The walker spoke more boldly now. Not loudly. Never loudly. It whispered truths. "You miss him. You came back because you wanted answers. He left you too." I screamed at it once, standing alone in the living room, voice cracking. "Leave me alone." The answer came from every direction. There is no alone in winter. The breaking point came when I found Jonah's coat missing from the hook by the door. I searched the house in a panic, calling his name without thinking. My voice echoed back wrong, delayed, flattened, unfamiliar. The back door stood open. Snow drifted inside in a slow, steady line, forming footprints that led out toward the forest. And waiting at the edge of the trees. Jonah. He stood half hidden among the trunks, coat on, face pale and calm. Too calm. "Come on," he said gently. "You'll freeze." I took one step forward before stopping. His eyes didn't blink. Snow passed through his boots' shoes without melting. "You're not him," I whispered. Jonah's smile widened just enough to be wrong. "I am what winter keeps," the thing said, voice slipping, layering into others. "And I've waited for you." Behind it, the forest leaned closer. And for the first time, I understood the truth Jonah had been running from. The walker didn't want the town. It wanted me. The house no longer belonged to me. I realized that the moment I woke to find my bedroom door wide open. Outside, the snowstorm had intensified overnight. A blizzard so thick it erased the world beyond the walls. But it wasn't the snow that terrified me. It was the sound. Footsteps. Slow. Intentional. Not random. Not chaotic. They circled the house, paused, retraced, paused again. Each step carried weight, as if it measured my panic and found it wanting. I armed myself with whatever was close. a metal broom handle, an old hunting knife Jonah had left in the kitchen drawer. The tools felt inadequate, childish even, against a presence I couldn't touch. I called out, "I know you're here. Leave me alone." The air around me shifted. Cold became sharper. Silence became pressure, pressing into my chest. And then, finally, it spoke. "You see," it whispered, my own voice perfectly mimicked. "You can't leave. Winter never forgets." I dropped the broom. My reflection in the darkened window showed me staring at myself, but wrong. My lips moved slower than they should have. My eyes were hollow. The walls began to bend. Doors that had led to closets now opened into the forest. Hallways extended impossibly, stretching beyond the architecture of the house itself. The floor seemed liquid, giving slightly under my feet, threatening to swallow me. From the corner of the room, a shadow emerged. Tall. Too tall. Wrapped in frost, layered with snowflakes that clung to its skin like a second flesh. Its face was a patchwork of memories. Jonah's features, the neighbors, even mine at times. It learned me. I screamed. And it responded in kind. My own voice screaming back. I ran. The kitchen door no longer led to the hallway but to a hallway I had never seen. Rooms shifted as I passed. The walls whispered. "You left him. You left him." In the living room, the fireplace was roaring, yet frozen over with ice. I touched it, and my fingers froze instantly. The mirror above reflected not me, but Jonah. Or maybe the thing wearing Jonah's face. Its eyes were black holes. I tried to open the front door. It led outside into nothing. Snow stretched endlessly. Footsteps leading directly toward me. Each step echoed a heartbeat. And at the edge of visibility, I saw dozens of tall forms emerging from the blizzard. Faces stitched from memories. Voices I recognized perfectly. "Jonah." I gasped. He or it smiled. "I've been waiting for you." The walker advanced, moving not as a human, but as if the snow carried it forward. The blizzard obeyed it. Trees bent, wind screamed, and the house behind me began to collapse inward, folding upon itself. Time warped. Seconds stretched into minutes. Minutes collapsed into instant freezes. I turned to run upstairs. The hallway elongated endlessly, the walls pulsing softly, almost breathing. From every corner came whispers. My name, Jonah's, Mrs. Holloway's, old Rourke's, layered voices, overlapping in impossible harmony. "Do you see now?" It asked, my own lips moving in tandem with the words. "You belong to winter. And winter always waits." I stumbled, fell into a room that hadn't existed before. Shadows swirled into corners that shouldn't exist. The air thickened, freezing me mid-breath. I clawed at the walls, desperate, but each step took me farther from safety, as if the house itself refused escape. I realized the horror wasn't trying to kill me. It was teaching me. The living room appeared behind me suddenly. In it, every object from my life, clothes, books, coffee mugs, was frozen in snow. Each one was a memory I recognized. Twisted. The radio sat in the middle of the floor, playing a single distorted note that stretched endlessly, pressing into my skull. Then it spoke in Jonah's voice again. "Face me." I turned. The walker had assumed full form now, or what could be called a form. Human-like, but warped, limbs too long, movements unervingly precise. Its face was every person I had loved, feared, or hated, blended into one impossible mask. Its eyes were empty mirrors, reflecting my panic back at me. I tried to strike it with the knife. It passed through the thing as if through smoke. "You can't fight winter," it whispered. "It doesn't bleed. It doesn't hurt. It waits." The air snapped. My heart raced impossibly fast. My breath formed crystals midair. Panic became tangible, crawling over my skin like frostbite in seconds. Every step I took forward, the thing mirrored, closing the space impossibly faster than I moved. I screamed. The sound was mine, but also theirs. Echoes of Jonah, Rourke, Mrs. Holloway, all screaming in perfect synchronization. I stumbled backward. Snow surged into the house, as if the blizzard itself had decided to invade. Floors froze, cracked, splintered. The walls leaned inward, forming a tunnel of ice leading straight to the thing. "You belong," it said. "I learned your face. I learned your fear." I realized the truth in that moment. The walker wasn't just in the house. It was Winter, and Winter was patient. It didn't need to chase me. It simply allowed me to see my own death in slow motion, eroding sanity step by step. And then the final horror came. It smiled. My own lips, Jonah's lips, old Rourke's lips, all twisted together. I fell to my knees. My reflection lagged behind my movements by a full second. My heartbeat echoed out loud, distorted in a rhythm that wasn't mine. The walker reached out. Its fingers, impossibly long, brushed my cheek. In that instant, I felt every winter before, every face it had collected, every scream trapped in the snow, all of it pressed into me. I wanted to run, to scream, to vanish. But there was no escape. Winter had me. I screamed one last time. Or maybe I didn't. Sound didn't matter. My own body, my own mind, no longer belonged. The house collapsed inward as if folding the world into a corner. I was gone. And outside, the blizzard continued, patient and eternal. Footprints remained in the snow, one pair, leading nowhere. Waiting. Watching. Winter always waits. When I woke, the snow had stopped. The house was gone. Or maybe it had never been there. Only the forest remained, black trees etched against a gray sky, frost-covered branches bending low, heavy and deliberate. I sat in the snow, body numb, eyes wide, and realized I could no longer feel the cold or the warmth. Just a hollow awareness, as if part of me had already been claimed and the rest was only waiting. Blackridge didn't exist anymore. Not as anyone remembered. People had abandoned the town after that winter. Rumors spread, houses burned, roads blocked, survivors vanished or gone mad. The local authorities claimed it was a blizzard, an accident. No bodies were recovered. No clear explanations. Just silence. The town had disappeared, swallowed into its own snow. I moved south, changed my name, and avoided mirrors when I could. Snow now terrified me. Even small flurries, the kind that should feel soft and quiet, carried a weight, a memory I couldn't escape. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear whispers, soft, patient, repeating my name. They are never loud enough to locate, just enough to remind me, the walker waits. Always. Sometimes I see my reflection lagging behind me. Sometimes I think I see Jonah in my face, or old Rourke, or Mrs. Holloway. And in those moments, I realize winter doesn't forgive. It doesn't forget. It only waits, slow and inevitable, until it has what it wants. I can't leave windows open. I can't look outside when snow falls. My apartment feels too small, but it is all I have left. Sometimes, when I stare too long, the shadows stretch slightly longer than they should. Objects shift in the corner of my vision. And when I hear the faint crunch of snow beneath boots that are not mine, I know winter is still patient. One night, a message appeared on my phone. No number. No sender. Just 3 words. Winter remembers you. I dropped the phone. It didn't ring again. I thought I was safe. I thought I had escaped. But the truth is, once winter sees you, it never stops. It never forgets. It doesn't need to chase. It waits. And in that waiting, it collects you. Not all at once, but in pieces. In echoes, in reflections, in footsteps that appear in fresh snow when no one is outside. Sometimes, late at night, I dream I am back in Blackridge. The house appears before me, intact and waiting. The forest leans close. The walls breathe. Footsteps circle. The air freezes mid-breath. And there, in the center of it all, the walker tilts its head and smiles. I wake drenched in sweat, the room icy, though my heater is on full. The shadows of trees scrape against the windows. My reflection lags behind me. I will never be free. Winter claimed me that year. Blackridge claimed everyone else. And the snow still falls in its own time, patient, endless, inevitable. Sometimes, when I think I am alone, I hear a whisper from behind me. Soft, deliberate, and impossibly close. Winter is patient. I don't turn around. Because if I do, I know it will see me. And seeing me is all it needs.